Chaplains are an essential part of a modern army, and it is worth stating that fact plainly at the outset. General Pershing repeatedly requested that the number of chaplains be doubled in the forces under his command. Hardly a narrative of soldiers' experiences exists without giving due place to the chaplain. In every army in France, chaplains were frequently cited for heroism, and in innumerable instances they suffered and died alongside the men in the ranks. There are two popular impressions of the chaplain's purpose in military service. The first sees him as a survival of medievalism, a figure from another age, blessing the weapons of men at arms. The second welcomes him as a faint sign of humanitarianism, one of the few men in an army who does not have to kill, but is there to save. Some people think of the physician and the chaplain together as having non-military work to do, as being a kind of concession to the pacific spirit of our generation. The truth, however, is strictly military. There is no mystery about it. The chaplain is in the army for the same reason as the physician, the locomotive engineer, the office clerk, or the thousands of other non-combatants who keep a modern army functioning. Each uses different methods, but all serve the same military machine. The physician's work is the very practical one of saving men's lives and returning them to the front. The chaplain's work is equally essential, to stimulate the morale of the troops.
Many factors bear upon the morale of a body of men: their physical environment, the strength of their individual units, the temper and ability of their leaders. Civilian organizations like the Red Cross labored hard among the men, with the backing of large and influential groups at home. Their work was important, but they were always under the handicap of doing civilian work among soldiers, a handicap whose seriousness only a soldier himself can fully appreciate. The chaplain faced no such obstacle. He wore the same uniform, took the same risks, obeyed the same orders, and was regarded in every way as one of their own. Old soldiers said it simply: "We have our own chaplain. He looks after us all right." The chaplain was first the religious guide of his men, not a preacher in the formal sense. Talking, not preaching, was the usual tone of the army chaplain. He knew how to speak the men's own language, slang and all. He understood the spiritual needs of boys transplanted, with all their youth still about them, into the deep realities which few men have ever had to face. He knew their shyness about emotion, but also their deep and immediate need of it, the love of home, the love of God, to sustain them through dangerous hours of duty and the tempting hours of idleness that followed. This religious need alone would have filled the days of far more chaplains than were available, even if the intended increases in their numbers had been granted. The need was evident in the training camp, the hospital, the transport ship, and the trenches. It was evident everywhere, and the chaplain had to be everywhere.
Beyond the religious, the chaplain handled a wide range of welfare work. One soldier needed advice about getting married before shipping out. Another had trouble at home and sought a furlough. A Jewish boy came in asking for a letter to his devout father, who hadn't wanted him to enlist, but would feel better knowing a rabbi was in camp. Another needed a minyan, a small prayer service, to recite the memorial prayer on the anniversary of his father's death. from complaint to comfort, from the timid boy with personal troubles to the talented musician wanting to help at a concert, the chaplain was the steady address for every need. American boys are restive under authority. Their resentment of officers was one of the chaplain's most delicate challenges. The Army often resembles a school: stringent rules, brief recreation, constant oversight. The average enlisted man regarded his commanding officer much as a schoolboy regards a strict teacher, and fled to the chaplain as he would to a sympathetic parent. That was precisely the role the chaplain played. He believed what he could believe, took no sides unfairly, and never undermined discipline. But any soldier could talk to him, and every soldier knew he would help if he could. Being an officer himself, the chaplain could speak freely with command. Not being a line officer, he issued no orders of his own. The result? Not an enemy in the Army, high or low.
During active combat, the chaplain's work changed in character, but not in purpose. At the front, he stationed himself at the first aid post, stood beside the surgeon on the battlefield, rode with ambulance drivers, and tramped up to the trenches with ration parties. After a battle, while exhausted soldiers rested, the chaplain remained behind for the last terrible task: burying the dead. When that duty was done and he returned to the troops, there was no rest for him. There were prayers to be said, hospitals to visit, and soldiers to befriend. His methods were deliberately unmilitary. The wise chaplain took his salutes as a matter of course and drew the men to him personally, making them forget rank. The moment he insisted on his officer status, he lost his influence as a minister. In the military, as in civilian life, the religious message comes through personality, never command. There were only 12 Jewish chaplains in the entire American Expeditionary Forces, a number wholly inadequate to the 1,000 or more Jewish soldiers scattered across the divisions. Each chaplain was expected to serve as many as several divisions, which multiplied his challenges and divided his effectiveness. Most of his work necessarily focused on the needs that no one else could meet: the Kaddish for the fallen, the Sabbath service in an unfamiliar field, the letter home that would reassure a worried father.
No account of this work would be complete without a tribute to the men themselves, chaplains of every faith who served together without rivalry. I could not have accomplished half of what I did without the friendship and support of men like Father Francis A. Kelly and Reverend Almon A. Janes of the 27th Division. I saw Father Kelly move from aid post to front-line trench, always most eager to be where the danger was greatest, always cheerful, always a priest. I witnessed the grief that followed Chaplain John A. Ward to the hospital after he was wounded, and the burst of welcome that met his return months later. The place of morale in the conduct of war has not yet been studied scientifically. What can be offered now are the personal and empirical observations of those who were there. Typical incidents, shared conclusions, the little-known work of the Jewish chaplains and the Jewish Welfare Board overseas. That story deserves to be told. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you won't miss my next captivating historical.